Hello, I'm Ricky Dean Widrig, and this is The Deep Dive. Today, we'll meet one of the people that makes our community so special. You may know them very well, or you may not know them at all. But either way, we're going to take a deep conversational dive with them and hear what makes them so unique and so interesting. So here we go on our deep dive of the day. Well, this morning on our show, we have the legendary icon of Middle Tennessee, Coleman Walker. It's such an honor to be with him this morning and to have a few words with him. I did a little calculation. He's been doing this broadcasting for 63 years. He started in 1961. And a quick calculation shows that's 3,000 weeks of broadcasting. That's not days, folks. That's not shows. That's weeks of broadcasting. That's got to be a record somewhere. I mean, Walter Cronkite didn't have that kind of legendary status. Amazing.
Well, I will have to say I've sort of had two careers. I started out part-time and eventually that accounted as just about 28 years. I was gone for 4.5, and then Susie started our FM here and asked me to do what I do now, which I've been doing for just over 30 years. So, yes, it was that many years ago, but there was a 4.5 year lull in there, if you will.
Well, how did you start? What actions or what happened that gets you behind a microphone?
I've always thought it would be a dream job to be a disc jockey, to sit there and play music that you like. And of course, it was not manual labor by any means. That would factor into it. But what a great way to do. You like music, you get to play music, hopefully entertain people while you're doing that. But I never dreamed really that I'd ever be able to do that. It wasn't necessarily a goal; it's more like a dream. But what happened here? It kind of gets involved, but my father worked for Middle Tennessee Electric, and part of his job was reading meters in an industrial route, which included the radio station. And he was somewhat of a friend with the engineer that worked here at that time. He read the meter that Friday afternoon, and the guy says, "We're having auditions for a guy who's leaving, and they're going to be auditioning tomorrow to find somebody to take his place." So I called the next morning and asked if I could come audition. And that started it all. I didn't get the job, but there was somebody else here who wanted that job. And when he didn't get it, he left. And that created another vacancy, which had to do with the weekends. And so I started out on the weekends, but that's how I got started.
Wow. Wow. And so you're living the dream. You're living your personal dream right now.
Really, it was, but I'll have to say, fast forward several years, and that dream kind of turned into a nightmare.
Oh no.
Because, well, radio is never, unless you are really good in sales or owned a radio station, pretty much, it wasn't a place where you made a lot of money. And as I had a family and had obligations, it got harder to make a living. And so, it came a point in the 80s where I wanted to forget everything I ever knew about radio and get into something else. And I did get into the insurance field at that time.
So that's the 4.5 year gap you had between.
Well, that's when it started, yes. And but even though I started doing Coleman and Company in 1993, when Susie started the new FM, that was just the first hour, of course, and then I went to my insurance job, and I did that for years until the last 3 or 4 when I closed the insurance office.
Oh, so you had a insurance business. I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah. That proved to be a little more lucrative, to say
the least. Well, you interviewed thousands of people, thousands and thousands of people, and you do it so well. In the morning, your baritone voice coming across the radio is soothing and informative, and it's just amazing. Who has amazed you? Who's your favorite guest, or do you have one?
I could name several. I could and will if you would like. But as far as maybe my favorite person that I've had multiple times over the years, it would be Mike Jennings, the mayor of Watertown, and our county attorney. Mike and I just sit here and have a great conversation. I love the guy, and we are different in political preference. We're different in who our sports teams are, but we get along well, and I have a lot of respect for him, and I just enjoy his monthly visit to Coleman and Company.
Well, he's an amazing guy too.
Yeah,
He's a very interesting human. I don't know him real well, but the times I've met him and known him, I was like, well, I'd like to just sit down and, have a beer with him or whatever. Sounds like you like
well,
that
I've
too.
had some unusual programs over the years, and one well, the most memorable would have to be now that happened. I guess it was a year ago when I come in here on Monday morning. My oldest son, who lives in Kokomo, had been in that weekend, and I thought he had gone back home. And I walk in the studio here, and there are my three sons, and my mouth flies open. And what are y'all doing here? And they are here to interview me for the whole hour. So that was probably the most memorable one. But I have another one I can share as well. That they were really a little bit apprehensive. I don't know how much they had rehearsed or thought about the questions they were going to ask. It was a little rude and crude, but I enjoyed it, and it was such a surprise, such a surprise. But the other thing, one of the most memorable ones that I had to do with the political realm. It involved Senator May Beavers,
Okay.
and she was running for reelection, and Bob Rochelle. And let me get my facts straight here. I believe, I don't know whether that was her first time to run for his Senate seat. Perhaps it was. And Rochelle decided not to run, and a lady from Carthage named Sherry Fisher was going to run as a write-in. And she had been begging May to debate her, and she had refused up until this time. And then May found out that Sherry had bought time on my program, and just right here live when she was here, I guess one of her Friday visits, she said, well, she's wanting to debate me. I know she's bought time next week. I'll just buy the other half and we'll debate the whole hour.
Woo.
And that was a memorable program. But what made it more so, I let each one of them have one representative in the studio with me. And I think we may have had a TV camera in here or not. Seems like we did, but the whole situation here was it was almost so tense you could cut it with a knife, so to speak. But now what had happened? The Democrats had come up with a TV ad they were saying May Beavers voted to allow condom advertising on school buses. Now that was not true, but the law that they had passed did not specifically prevent that. Didn't say you shall not advertise that. And so they turned it around to make people believe that she had actually done that. Well, we go to our first break in this debate with both of them sitting here. And what is the commercial that comes on during the break? That advertising. Nobody said anything, but anyway,
What was the advertisement?
the condom about she she, she had voted for condom advertising on school buses.
Oh my God.
So, I guess all of that is what made this so memorable, but it was unusual. I never did one just like that ever before or after. So I guess that's what makes it so memorable. But we got through the hour and everything went okay. But that's two anyway.
Well, so you probably interviewed I don't know, important people or musicians or whatever, who's probably the most popular or the person we would all know besides Mike Jennings?
Uh, well, I'll have to think a little bit here. Well, one time we had Gaylord Perry and Phil Necro, who were baseball pitchers, came to the hospital here. That's why they were here. But they managed to have them on my program. I got to interview both of those baseball pitchers, Phil Necro, who was a knuckleballer for the Atlanta Braves, and Gaylord Perry, who played with maybe two or three teams, but was known for his spitball. And I really enjoyed those. They are two of the most famous, I guess, as far as that goes. But really, the program, it just has to do with people here in the community, and I have had a good relationship with all the mayors while I've done Coleman and Company, and had every one of them on in a regular time, the city mayors, and we've had the county mayors on. In fact, Don Simpson, who just passed away a few months ago, was we called him county executive at that time when the program started, but he was one of the first, and I had him on from time to time. And actually, Bobby Jewell was mayor of Lebanon, and he and Mike Jennings, and the three of them were my first guest for a whole hour, the first program that I did in October of '93. But it's changed some over the years. That time we had three people. We sat here for a whole hour, and one of the longest hours of my life. Uh, when we got through, and I stand up at 8 o'clock, I think, Walker, what have you got yourself into? But we decided that it was best to have a guest for the first half, a guest for the second half. And then we began doing the live commercials where we have 5 or 6 minutes to start out with each day. And then when we go to the break at 7:30 and come back, we have another one. It got popular enough that we could actually have 10 advertisers, which made it more lucrative for the station. And of course, if the station's making money, that's kind of job security for me, right?
Well, those live commercials that are 4 or 5 minutes in length, they're actually very informative. The one this morning dealt with Bob McDonald was on, and he was talking about cybersecurity and how to protect your online presence, and things that we should know about. And so those actually provide a community service in my mind, as well as then you had Mayor Bell on as well, and he's always very informative, very knowledgeable. So you're really providing a service to the community, and you have a big broadcast area, so it's amazing what you do.
Well, thank you for saying so. I hope so. I hope it's more than just something that people spend money for. Obviously, they believe in it, or they wouldn't continue to do it. And we've had some people who have been with us for a long, long time, and I hope they continue to stay. But you get to know the people when you have them on a weekly basis. It's almost like family, really. I mean, I could really go into I would consider these people who come out here and advertise, they're friends. We develop a friendship, a relationship that's really good.
It's apparent when you talk to them that you'd have them over for dinner. Anyone, well, they'd have you over too for that.
Actually, it hasn't been that much, but we get to know each other, and it's a friendship does develop. There's camaraderie. It sure is.
So I want to go back in time a little bit, and I read somewhere that Elvis Presley had some sort of influence on you getting on the radio. How is that true?
Well, okay, I guess I didn't tell the whole story in the beginning. Actually, what happened, I don't know exactly when Hugh Jarrett quit singing with the Jordanaires, but he was one of the singers, he sang bass with the Jordanaires, who backed up Elvis. And he worked at WHIN in Gallatin, He had actually he was over there with a program twice a day. I used to listen to him a lot, and he decided to quit the Jordanaires and go to a station in Nashville, which created a vacancy over there. And the guy that was leaving WCOR, his name was John Branham. I know John pretty well. He was a year behind me in high school, actually. But John accepted a job over there, creating the vacancy here. And so, yes, the fact that Elvis, whatever, I think Hugh Jarrett thought Elvis was washed up. To be honest, that's kind of the story I got. So he's not going to sing with the Jordanaires anymore. He's going to a bigger station in Nashville. And so by creating that vacancy and a guy leaving here, that opened the door for me to get into radio.
So that's an amazing coincidence, or whatever, that Elvis
Absolutely.
Presley had an influence on your life. Well, I know you spend a lot of your time at the radio station, but you also spend time at home. And I understand you're a gardener. You like to get your hands in the dirt and grow some.
Yeah, from when I was a little boy and we lived out the road here, we always had a garden, and so I learned how to do the fundamentals, let's say, of having a family garden, and the work was involved in all of this. So even when we had our little house and lot and a little area in the backyard, I wanted to at least grow some tomatoes, and well, more than that, I've had a pretty big garden for many years, especially when our three sons were at home. Way to produce some food of your own, and I just enjoy getting out, getting my hands dirty, sweating a little bit. The exercise is good, but the produce from the garden's even better.
So you have probably some heirloom tomatoes or something that you kept, or what? How's that work?
Well, I for those who know, I did the Bradley tomato for a long time, and then Judge Barry Tatum's daddy, who lived on Academy Road, Coles Ferry Pike, he used to sell tomato plants, and he got me started on Pink Girl. And really, I guess I've had them pretty much ever since. Pink Girl variety. Mr. Tatum passed away some time ago, so I graduated from his tomatoes to getting them at the co-op. We give the co-op a plug here. They're a good advertiser with us. But it depends. Some years I've had more than others. I've slowed down some. I don't have as much anymore. But you mentioned heirloom. There's a pea I talked to you about the other day. That we've always had in my family ever since I can remember. The field peas, pretty much the two varieties that I ever knew of was Crowder and Whippoorwill, and we always did the Whippoorwill peas. And I got some seed probably 30 years ago, and I still have. When I grow them, I will save some each year for seed. So yes, I have some in the freezer that I don't know how old they are, but they've been going for years and years and years in my backyard.
Do you have to freeze the seeds for them to propagate, or you're just saving
No,
and freezing?
just have them in the freezer to preserve them.
Right. There are
Uh,
some seeds you have to winter,
yeah, yeah,
freeze over, but that isn't one of them.
yeah. That yes, right. Uh, and that we just happen to like that variety. Other people like something else, but been able to hold on to that, and yeah, I guess that's something I'm kind of proud of.
Yeah. For 30 years, can I get some peas from you this year so I can taste it?
I will be happy to share some from my freezer with you if you want to grow your own. I'm not going to
Absolutely.
come and plant them for you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You sure? When can't you come over and ground for me?
There's quite a bit of manual work to gardening. It's a good workout, even if you got a tiller. I mean, you can that tiller can shake you a little bit and you use some muscles that you forgot you had, especially when the day's over. But I've always enjoyed that. It's just been an aside that that I don't want to give up until I have to. Maybe I won't have to.
Ah, why would you? That's
Yeah. Well, until until I'm 6 feet under or whatever.
well, that's a long time in the future, that's for sure.
Well,
So
let's hope.
you're married, and
Yes.
uh, how long? Can I ask you a few personal questions? Like how long you been married? Would you mind?
Well, this April we will have been married 61 years.
Good grief, that's longer than most of your listeners have been on the planet.
Probably so. But
Wow.
we were married in April of '63, so that do the math. That is 61 years. Uh,
Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, you're doing something right for sure.
well, it's marriages. There are a lot of marriages that don't. A lot of people don't make it, and we know that divorce rate's high. But there has to be a commitment. I think you just gotta be committed. You gotta be determined. Nothing is going to tear you apart, and that's kind of the way it's been with us. It's not been a bed of roses all the time. We've had some tough times, but we've managed to pull through, and I'm really happy. And my wife is Helen, and with the three sons that we have three boys who we're so proud of. Clark lives in Kokomo, Indiana. He's an engineer there. They're what they're doing is they're trying to get electric cars going, which is another subject. But that's kind of what he does. My middle son is Brian, and he is a CPA in Nashville. Actually lives in Brentwood. And the youngest one is Mike. He works for Atmos Energy, which is in Franklin, but he actually lives in Smyrna. And Mike has two daughters. The others have sons. We've got 7 grandchildren altogether, and 1 great granddaughter.
Wow.
So that's kind of the family,
Well, you're blessed. Seven grandchildren and 1 great grandchild.
right?
Wow. Well, that's kind of a legacy right there, isn't it? That you successfully raised 3 young men, and they've went out and been successful in the world, and that's something to be proud of.
One of the things that I'll tell this about them that I thought was good. They they all wanted to do something and make some money and whatever. They were able to do a paper route. In fact, for the Lebanon Democrat, uh, Clark got one route, and then somebody else gave up one, so he got two. He had 2 routes that he was doing for a while, and then when he decided to do something else, got older, and actually bought him a car with the money he had saved from a paper route. The other 2 boys got the 2 paper routes. And my wife helped them a lot. She would roll they delivered the papers after school. Now, this is several years ago, and it's a little different then. They all come through the mail now, but they would deliver them in our neighborhood. And one of them did the one route this week, while the other one did the other. And then next week they would alternate, so that if one of them were sick, they could do both. They knew both routes, and that worked well. And so they got started doing that. It's good for a child, boy or girl, but I think especially a young boy to have something like that where he can earn a little money on his own and learn how to manage it and get a good start in life.
Yeah, if the child makes the connection between work and money early,
Yeah.
usually it'll stick with them for the rest of their lives. If they don't, sometimes, well, it's a different result. But that's
Well,
amazing.
and they realized too that daddy couldn't give them much of an allowance, and if they wanted more than a few cents or a dollar or two, they had to do something to get it, because I didn't have it. That's another reason that I needed to do something else back there in the mid '80s.
Well, you've had a wonderful life from the outside looking in. You're living your dream. You have a great family. You have a devoted wife. you're an amazing person, and I'm just blown away by you and what you've accomplished. You're on the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame. Did I say that right? Is that
Yes, yes. Yeah, a lot of thanks goes there to Susie James. She nominated me, and it took, I believe it was 7 years before they finally voted me in. But it's there's a there's a plaque that's in the studio here at the radio station that has my name on it. 2021 career inductee, Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame, and I'm very, very honored to have, and very appreciative of her efforts to do this, and for all who voted for me to be there. It longevity does count sometimes, I guess.
Well, yeah, longevity does, but you have to be good to be legendary and long admired, like just like you are. Um, I don't want to take up your whole day, and I really appreciate your speaking with us today. And hopefully, we can talk again in the future because there's so much more that you have to offer that I would really like to talk about. But today, I want to thank you, and will you come back and see me sometime?
All right. Well, I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Rick. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. And folks, if you want to follow us on Instagram or Facebook, just sign up and we'd be happy to have you as a guest. Thank you. As we wrap up another insightful episode of the Deep Dive, I want to express my sincere gratitude to the excellent guests we had today and also our loyal listeners. Special thanks go to our sponsors, Fire Pit Art, the best fire pits on the planet, and Powder Coat Art for high quality metal powder coating. If you've enjoyed this, please connect with us on social media and tell your friends how much you enjoyed the program. And always remember, when you want to find your way home, it's always bubbles up. Thanks. Have a good day.